you and the broader society landscape. And I think he's joining us right now on StreamYard. Good morning and welcome to Salam Media, Philip.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think before we go any further, maybe just just explain to our listeners, in the briefest time that you can, what is this bill? What is the General Intelligence Laws Amendment Bill, and what does it entail? But most importantly, how will it affect South Africans going forward if it does pass?
Well, the bill has some parts which I think are reasonable, which include splitting the intelligence agency into two parts, one foreign and one domestic. And it provides for the regulation of mass surveillance, which the government had already started, but then was told by the Constitutional Court that that was illegal. Now they're wanting to make that legal. But the question is, are there going to be enough checks and balances on this to stop the state intelligence from abusing their powers as they do in, for example, Russia and China, and in the previous regime of the apartheid security police? And we believe that the door is wide open for some malicious person, either for political reasons or because of their greed, to misuse the state intelligence service for bad purposes. And that could be particularly spying on organizations and leaders that the government might not like. It also includes the mass surveillance on anybody, which could mean intercepting your cell phone signals or your license plate numbers while you drive around. And so we want changes to this bill to make sure that it's not abused. Now, particularly concerning was the May 2023 draft of this bill, which said that the state security must vet anybody who wants to set up a religious organization or a non-profit organization. Now, we protested vigorously against that, and they took those words out of the bill. But they've left the wording of the bill so broad that they could actually still do that. And that is very concerning and to us completely intolerable. We cannot have state security spying on and vetting or checking whether they are okay with anybody who wants to set up a religious or a non-profit organization. So we need assurance that that's not going to happen. And we've proposed some changes already to this bill, but it remains to be seen whether they're going to listen to us on that.
Can you maybe, just explain what are some of the changes that you've suggested that should be made into this bill?
Well, the bill says, for example, that a threat to national security includes a whole list of things. And some of those things on that list we're quite happy with. So, for example, if there is terrorism or money laundering, we're okay with that. They can spy on people that they suspect of terrorism or money laundering. But what they've also put on the list is anything which is a threat to what they call peace and harmony, or a threat to equality. Now, what does a threat to peace and harmony or a threat to equality mean? Well, everybody's definition is going to be different. And we know that certain people keep accusing religious organizations of being opposed to equality. For example, if they have different views on gender and LGBT and abortion. And so they could then say, okay, you guys are a threat to equality, and so state security needs to spy on you. And that is exactly what happened a number of years back when a group of organizations made submissions to Parliament that the chairman of the parliamentary committee didn't like, and he threatened to have state security investigate them. And that, obviously, he wasn't allowed to do that. But this bill could allow a politician like that to then abuse state security to spy on his opponents. We've also got the risk that the previous situation of state capture, we know that the spy agency was abused by the people involved in state capture to steal money and waste government money. And because it's all secret, they can hide things very easily. And so they're supposed to have a watchdog, which is called the Inspector General, who checks up on them to make sure that they're doing everything okay. But this bill doesn't give sufficient powers to the Inspector General to actually do his job, because he is part of that same organization and reporting to the organization that he is supposed to be being a watchdog on. So he's proposed that he should be something completely separate, and I support that suggestion.
And I think it was back in 2013 when we saw the Protection of Personal Information Act, the POPI Act, which was passed down as a form of legislation into government. Would this new bill, the Caleb bill, in any way and in any form be in contradiction of the POPI Act? And now it would be really confusing that you have the POPI Act on one side and now you have another bill on the other end, and they're seemingly contradicting against each other.
Well, one of the things in the bill, for example, is that it says that the state intelligence can demand information from any government department and that they must provide it. Now, the difficulty with that is that if a government department has collected information from for one particular purpose, as I understand it, in terms of the POPI Act, they are not allowed to then use that same information for a completely different purpose. And so how that works, I'm not sure. We're going to have to look for answers on that one. But it also allows, also to me, rather worryingly, the State Department to ask the spy agency to do investigations for them. Now, that to me is also dangerous because, for example, every government department has NGOs that are holding them accountable and maybe don't agree with government policy. So, for example, there are education NGOs that are monitoring and arguing with the education department. Under this law, they could then ask the spy agency to spy on those organizations and get information from them. And if you think that that's beyond likely to happen, I think it was already happening under the apartheid regime. And I think we've also got indications. For example, there's a top spy who wrote a book, Spilling the Beans, on MI5 in Britain. And we know from that he accuses the British government of bugging the hotel rooms of people that they were involved in negotiating with in order to get information to benefit their intelligence. Now, do we want the government doing that to us? I don't think so. So we need to make sure that it's not abused. And but our concern is particularly on the religious organization side, because we want to keep religion independent of the state unless there are very strong reasons that have nothing to do with religion, such as terrorism or money laundering or something like that.
And what steps are being taken by the Caleb Ad Hoc Committee to address, the concerns that you just raised? And before the bill is potentially passed into law, are there, any steps being taken? Are there steps being, considered? Where are we right now?
Well, we are at the stage of the where the committee of the National Assembly is going around the different provinces and listening to concerns of the various organizations that are coming along. But those public hearings, from the what I've seen and what other people have reported, is being mostly intended by unemployed people who kind of bored and looking for a free lunch. But they've got an incredibly tight time frame. Written comments are due tomorrow, which if you do an internet search on the GILAB bill, the spy bill, then you can find the information about how to put your concerns in on that. But there's national public hearings that are on, where I will be speaking Tuesday next week at Parliament. And then they are aiming to pass this through the National Assembly early next month. Now, I think this is to try and get it all done before the elections, but this is an incredibly tight time frame to fix an incredibly problematic bill, and I wouldn't envy the job of the people on that committee to fix all the problems with this bill, because the draft that the government has given them is, to me, uh, just completely unacceptable. If they're going to write a good bill, they're going to have to rewrite half of this thing.
And just lastly, how does the public stay informed or engage in this process? As you mentioned that they're going to try and fix it right before the elections. I'm sure a lot of people might not have been aware of it. Where can they get more information about it, and some of the process that are ongoing on whether or not the bill will ultimately be passed into legislature?
Well, there's our media channels, which you can look on ChristianView Network, one word, on YouTube. You can also go ChristianView Network on Facebook, and you can stay updated there. You can also find there how to join in our WhatsApp group. But there are other organizations such as Freedom of Religion SA and Intel Watch, which are also keenly interested in this bill and putting in submissions, and they can also keep you informed on that. But I really think that the most of South Africa is asleep on this bill. It's also one of a raft of pieces of legislation which threatens to make our South African democracy like the Chinese taking over Hong Kong, because there are lots of pieces of legislation, also the Education Bella Bill, also the Hate Speech Bill, which take away the powers from ordinary citizens and give them to a centralized state. And we as South Africans have to say, no, we are keeping our rights. We are not giving them back to the states.
No, thank you so much, Philip, for joining us here on Salam Media. I hope, going forward that there's going to be a bit more information. The public will stay more engaged, particularly those that are, in the religious organization field, about just how impactful this bill is going to be for them if passed by Parliament. But for now, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thanks, Em.
That was Philip Rosenthal from that was Philip Rosenthal telling us a bit about the Gillib bill, a bill that which is passed is going to see government have so much access to your information, to religious organizations' information, and I think look it up and see how it might affect you in your privacy as a citizen of this country going forward. It's about 29 minutes past 8, half past 8, where I am going to take a quick break, and we'll see you after this.